Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining this webinar. Today we will be talking about audio over IP knowledge. So today we will have the third session out of a series from 7 sessions. So today we will have the third session of IP. So we started with the introduction, then we did the basics. Now we will be talking about audio over IP connections. And there will be more sessions coming on RTSP, hop count, real-time audio, security arrangements, networks requirements and consideration, everything required to gear you up for designing and specifying and installing IP-based public address and voice alarm systems. So the goal of the webinar today is to provide you insights on how to connect Presensa to external Dante audio devices, third party or Bosch, and we will be talking about audio routing over IP in general, as also interfacing Omnio Dante gateways. So myself, Maarten Wings, I'm hosting the webinar today, a regional marketing manager in EMEA for Bosch, and I am supported today by my colleague Anton Thiele, who is an application design engineer for public address and voice alarm systems. So Anton, thank you for supporting me today. If you want to, you can take it forward and tell us more about audio over IP.
Okay, Maarten. Yeah, thank you for this introduction. I hope you can hear me well, just to be sure. Yeah, we start with audio routing in Presensa. The audio routing of Presensa, it means Presensa audio network consists out of 3 things actually. So what you can see here is that every Presensa component, as also explained in the previous sessions, they have a switch inside. So every device contains a switch, and you can in principle interconnect them directly to each other. Yeah, so you do not need to have any external network device. There is here one which we also offer in the EN54 certification. It's this ES8P2S. That's a switch, just a standard switch, but the other are the embedded components where we have the system controller, amplifier, MPS, and call station, which integrated switch here. So it consists out of 3 things. So devices that create Omnio audio. So in this case, you see here the Presensa system controller and the call station. That's our devices that create Omnio audio. Then you have the Omnio network itself, what I just started with. So we have every device has its switch. So that's the Omnio network itself, how it is transferred within the Presensa PA system. And then you have the devices that receive Omnio audio. And that could be in this case a Presensa amplifier or a multifunction power supply. I come back to that later, but these are the basic items. So you have once that create the Omnio audio, the Omnio network itself, and devices that receive it. That's also important to understand later on and to do the design. So let's a little bit more zoom into these devices that create the Omnio audio. They always create Omnio multicast. Yeah, maybe you can ask yourself why multicast. If I just have to make an announcement from one call station to one amplifier, yeah, you could also set up a unicast channel. Well, in case you want to, for example, the system is designed to be very dynamic. It means that if you have like a message plate and you want to add zones to it, or you want to reduce zones, that kind of things are you can do on the fly. So when the call is already active, you can just add it and reduce it, and that makes it with multicast audio very flexible. Yeah, so that's why we use always multicast audio in the system to to address these devices. And also when you have a lot of components, then also multicast is much less bandwidth consuming than if you would need all additional channels to reach all individual amplifiers. So that makes it also more transparent and more effective in the usage of bandwidth. So, but these Omnio audio devices, back to the device that create this, have digital or analog audio sources. So that means you can have your external digital or analog sources connected to the system controller in this case. So you see, for example, here a Dante virtual sound card. So you could have a PC which runs this software, and you just plug it into the system controller or to the network of the PRAESENSA. Doesn't matter if it's the system controller or anything else, as long as it's in the same local area network. You just plug in your PC, and then you can play the audio from your PC. If you have a playlist, you can just play it, and that's then an audio input of your PRAESENSA system. You could also have a Dante card, for example. That's an embedded PC card in this case, which produces that audio, so you do not have a separate application, but it's just this hardware doing it. Another option, for example, could be the Presidio Dante transmitter. That's the Omnio interface which we have there, the OMI. That one can also just send out Dante, and then the system controller can receive it. But you have also a lot of analog to Dante converters. And this is just one example, but there are dozens of these kind of devices with 1, 2, or 8 or 16 channels available, which you could connect to the system controller in that case. So with that, you can create a lot of analog or digital inputs to reach the PRAESENSA system. Yeah, and then here we have because we're still talking about devices that create Omnio. You have, of course, also the call station here. It could be the microphone or the music input, the mini jack input, which is on that call station. That's there also. So you could have also this kind of analog sources, which at the end are transferred into Omnio audio in the digital domain. Then you have the PRAESENSA devices that receive audio flows. So that means that receive that Omnio audio. And they have analog or digital destinations. So now we're not talking about the audio inputs, but we are talking about the audio outputs of the system. And maybe surprisingly, you also see now that besides the amplifier and the MPS I was talking about, you see also the system controller here and the call station. They can also receive multicast audio, and I'll explain you why. For example, here you have, if you have that same Dante card, which also where you want to receive audio from the PRAESENSA system, that's also possible. So it's bidirectional. So if you have already your connection for your Dante audio in, you can also here have Dante of Omnio audio out to these Dante cards to be able to receive audio to an external and to transfer to an external Dante receiver. Again, that Dante virtual sound card could receive also like playing, but it can also receive audio. So you could also use it, for example, to do some recording or that kind of things, applications you could think about. You have also Dante to analog converter. So that's just the other way around. That converts them your Omnio or Dante audio from the PRAESENSA system into an analog output. And there you have also, again, these dozens of different types which can do this. And we have that Presidio Dante receiver, which is also a transmitter and a receiver inside. So that means it can both receive and transmit these channels. So it's then I/O, both bidirectional for the system controller to get audio in or out of the PRAESENSA system. The amplifiers, I think that's pretty obvious. So they just receive the Omnio audio from the network and play it out on their loudspeakers lines, which are connected to the amplifiers. This lifeline is a little bit different. That means in case this internal switch might break off the PRAESENSA amplifier, then you still have a backup through the MPS. So that means in case the switch breaks, then still the audio and the highest priority audio is played out on the lifeline. And this lifeline is an analog connection, which is then connected from that lifeline output to the amplifier. So in case this one is losing its entire control, it still has an analog input, a line input where it will listen to, and then this one can play that audio which is then received through that MPS. Yeah, so the multifunction power supply has more functions than only powering the voltage and powering the devices. It is also there providing the voltage, but it's also there to give this lifeline and audio to the amplifiers in that case of a backup. And then you have the call station loudspeaker to listen to chimes and messages. Yeah. That means they have you have a loudspeaker on it, so you can, when you start a call, that you can hear the chime playing. So that chime is not recorded or sent to the call station itself. No, that chime is actually coming from the system controller. So so if you start a call, it's like a built-in receiver then, which receives already the audio stream from the system controller. So you know that it's really the chime, which is also played at the loudspeakers on the field. Yeah. So, but that it will also be then. So that means this call station is also a receiver of that Omnio stream to play that chime or message on the call station. How to connect analog audio sources. So now we have in one of the previous sessions, I showed you the schematics of this. These are the visual symbols, like a system controller, an MPS, an amplifier. And we have then the audio into Dante. And that can be then an BGM input on a call station. So that can be but it can also be a line input on an audio Dante converter. And then we have a kind of third-party Dante devices. So we have the analog input to Dante channels, mic or line level inputs, and we have the Dante channels to analog output, line level outputs. All is PoE powered, or it can be through an external power supply unit. Some examples here from Neutrek, RDL, Aterotech, and Ordinate. Yeah, Dante channels, so the external devices, have static routing. That means when you make a connection, I will show that later, when you set up a connection from an external Dante device, you will make that fixed. You do that statically. And it's like when you have your, in the analog world, where you just plug in your analog source into the system. So now you do this digitally via an application, Dante controller, but it's still a static routing. And these Dante channels are not encrypted. Dante and Omnio channels can exist on the same network. So it doesn't mean that they need to be isolated from each other. They can run all on the same local area network. Omnio in principle is also Dante. So it's not, it's only Dante with some add-ons, means with some encryption. And yeah, that can exist on the same network. Dante and Omnio channels are not default connected. So you need to do something there to bring them to get them connected. So that means with Dante controller we do this mapping, and to map the Omnio channels to Dante. And here you see them some examples. I will show you later on from a live application. If you have some sources, and then you can assign that to the audio inputs of the system controller. The system controller, as also indicated before, is the input of your audio input source of your system. Then the audio out, how to connect analog audio, destination. So you have a third-party Dante to analog audio device. So that's then the other direction. For example, this unit here, which could have a line output, and so besides that you have a mic or line input, the device would also have outputs, and then PRAESENSA can transmit Dante streams to that device. Yeah. So the line output to destination, that can that can be amplifier, a PA system, or an audio recorder, of course. You could that again connect through this line output. Yeah, so that could be your final destination of that audio source. But that's fully flexible what you choose, of course. Something about the Dante to Omnio. There are some different spices there. You have an Dante to Omnio without encryption, and that means within PRAESENSA, in the system controller, we have the option to have 112 unencrypted Dante audio channels. And that means when you choose there to assign the channels 17 up to 128 as audio input of PRAESENSA, they are standard unencrypted Dante audio inputs of the system. So they also will then go unencrypted to the different amplifiers. At the moment you make a call from this source, our control system automatically will also tell the amplifiers to unencrypt, to just pick up the samples and play them out on their local loudspeakers. There's also an option to have Dante to Omnio with encryption. And therefore we have 8 channels, the channel 9 until 16, which can do that encryption. And that means that from the moment that this audio is at the system controller, then there will be separate channels created which encrypts the audio. So it's really an encryption of the Dante flow in that case. Yeah. So they will put encrypted audio on it, and when you make a call, also the receiving amplifiers will get the key for that particular audio call to get the audio cross. So all the audio goes encrypted over the network. So channel 6 to 19, and when you have seen already the configuration pages of PRAESENSA, it can be selected as input or output. So that means we have 8 encryptors or decryptors in the network. So that means at the moment you need to have these audio outputs there. You need to have these channels. You need them to get the audio out of the system. Yeah, so it depends on how you configure your system. If you say I have 4 encrypted input channels and I have 4 channels going out of the system controller, that's something what you can indicate with the channel assignment of the from the inputs here. Then we have Omnio to Dante to analog audio. That's then again that Omnio to Dante and Omnio encrypted to Dante. There are 8 audio channels out, channel 9 until 16, and these channels can be selected as input and output, and here they are Dante output channels. So you see now that these 8 channels are really getting on the Dante network. As you see, we have the Dante or the Omnio stream, this green one, which has then all the Omnio channels, which can have part of it unencrypted and encrypted, and you have your Dante channels, and they can in theory be all on the same network. Yeah. Yeah, the software Dante controller runs on a Windows PC. So, and with that you can map the AS67 channels or Dante channels to Omnio. Yeah, so you can map Omnio channels to Dante channels. So that's again that link what you have to make between PRAESENSA and the external audio sources and transmitters. Yeah, select the Dante transmitter channel, third-party device, and then select the receiving channel, the system controller in that case, and then click on the intersection, and then a green marker appears, and then that is actually all what you need to do in that case. Yeah. So, and that you can repeat for the other channels to set up your connections. So that's in principle how it goes. I will show this later, this gateway, but let me first show you on my real installation. So I have here we have here an APAS. This is our PA server, which has 2 times 5 AES67 channels. That's why you see here this URL. So this is also the way how you log into the APAS dash 9667. So this device here, where you can log into, and then that's the APAS. It has 8 of 10 channels, and this time we have set up the link from this APAS to audio input 17 of the system controller. Yeah, by just cross checking here. I also have here an Aterotech analog in. They say it, but it's analog in, but of course it's down to transmitter. Maybe it's confusing, but it means this is a converter from analog inputs to Dante. So that means at the output of the analog input device, it transmits Dante. So, and that means this is in Dante controller a Dante transmitter, and it must be now, I'm sorry, it must be assigned to a system controller receiver. And for example, if you here check on this one, then it removes again. Yeah, so then it is removed, and you could also again assign it to connect it again to the system. Yeah, this is how you establish your links. Maybe also good to see here is that we have a second system controller. We have a main and a backup system controller. When you look at this one, there is nothing assigned to it. This is automatically done by the redundant system controllers. That means if you would try to make here a connection between this device and the system controller, it will reject that connection. As you can see, I try to establish a connection. It does not work. That's simply because of the reason that this system controller is in standby. So at this moment, this system controller is active, and there you can establish the connections. At the moment that there is a failover from this system controller to this system controller, then automatically all the audio assignments will be taken over by this system controller. And that's not only for the Dante receivers, but also for the transmitters. So if you have here, the system controller is also a transmitter, as I demonstrated before, so it's bidirectional. So if I have here, I have this Avio Bluetooth device. So if I would make a connection from this system controller out, not sure now if this audio output is enabled, but let's see. No, this is now not active. But what is the fact is that if you make an connection from this one to here, and then also the audio routing is automatically then assigned to and it will transfer to the other system controller. So that is a bidirectional approach here. Yeah, to do that. So we can have a look here. Here you see audio outputs. So here I have this system controller output 13 that's active, and that's going to the out of this Teletech device. So and that means if the system controller would fail over to this one, then it automatically will transfer the output 13 and 14 from here to there. You cannot assign both because it's not a mixer. So you cannot mix these two outputs. You always have one which is the active player, and that's the in this case this 4860. Yeah. So that's a little bit the idea on how you can assign your audio outputs and inputs to the system. Let me quickly go back to the presentation. Because there's also something like an Omnio to Dante gateway. What is this? So this is actually a separate device. It's not yet really part of the PRAESENSA product range, we say it that way. So it's not a device which you can configure in PRAESENSA, but you can see it as a stupid Dante to, or more or less as Dante to Dante converter. And but the nice thing is that it completely separates the PRAESENSA network from your external network. So we talked about encryption and about security. So this could be your gateway from an external Dante sources to the sensor network. If that's also part of EVAC, that could make sense that you put this in between, and that you that really disables the opportunity for these sources to do anything on the network at the other side. So that's then the optimal reliability which you could achieve. It also isolates multicast traffic. So that means if your external system could not handle a high amount of multicast, which might be happening in the PRAESENSA environment, then that also helps you to isolate that, and you can set up single connections to the gateway, and from the other side it just plays out the audio to the PRAESENSA system controller and the rest of the PRAESENSA network. So it also enables you to use Dante Domain Manager in combination with Omnio systems. So you could, on the Omnio side, you could have your total multi-subnet PRAESENSA environment using ARNIs and an entire scope there. But on the other side, you could still have also in the Dante domain, you could use the domain manager to also run multi-subnet at the Dante side. So there are different options then. There are two completely separated environments. There is increased reliability due to Dante glitch-free redundancy in the connection and you can have RSTP on the Omnio side. Yeah, that's a rapid spanning tree protocol, which is also supported in PRAESENSA to create redundant links and to create loops. So that are the options here for this gateway. It's there's high security by keeping up to 8 audio channels in PRAESENSA encrypted, and it's AES67 compatible also. So in principle, you could also connect there the APAS, what I just showed you with the AES67. You could connect that to this device, and then on the other side, you could then connect it again to PRAESENSA. But yeah, this is the backside of this unit. So you can see here you have some power inputs. You have your Omnio connection, and you have your Dante connection. So there is not a real physical. There's not a bridge here, not an Ethernet bridge in between. So the only thing what is transferred between these two is the clocking, because the clocking must be synchronized between your Dante audio devices and your Omnio audio devices. You want to have them fully synchronized at the same moment. And that's the information which is transferred between this network and this network, and of course the audio itself. But that's not going through IP. This is really a digital connection internal between these two separate boards, I would say. Yeah, so it's really isolated from each other. And this gateway can then have 64 audio channels transferred from the Danto network to the Omnio network. And you can, of course, again have then 8 audio channels back if you look at the PRAESENSA system to the rest of the Danto network. So you do not need this. So it's not. You can also, what I said, you can also have your Danto and Danto devices running on the PRAESENSA network. You must be careful with some devices which maybe only are 100 megabit, because after some amount of channels, so if you have them more than 15 or 20 channels, they really can give problems if you do not protect them against multicast. So this could be something. You could also use in that case a switch to block the multicast. So or just use gigabit. Then that's the easiest way. Yeah. So this to brief you about this gateway, that which we also used in some PRAESENSA projects already. So this was all what I would like to explain to you in this session about the audio connections to and from PRAESENSA.
Yeah, then thank you all for your attention. As you saw, this was the third session of a bigger series, so we will be having session number 4 soon. I hope that you can join, and I wish you a very good remainder of the day. And Anton, thank you for your insights during the presentation.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you. Bye bye.